Welcome to the Multifamily Zone, where business meets family. We explore what the entrepreneur life looks like from the family perspective. Now here are your hosts, Julia and Gino Barbaro.
Hey everyone, this is Julia Barbaro, host of the Multifamily Zone podcast. I am here with the co-founder of Jake and Gino, my husband and co-host, Gino Barbaro.
Hey, Jill.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. You know, it's funny because I just came home to all 6 of our kids, including the adult ones, watching Dora the Explorer, the movie, 2019, live action.
Really?
Yeah. They're like, Mom, you got to see this.
Mom's got to work.
So that's what I'll be doing later.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to follow up on that. I need to put Dora the Explorer on here. We have a serious topic today, and we've got a great guy on. He's an amazing coach. He's got a fantastic story. I want to read the bio, but the bio doesn't do him justice. Formerly a private jet pilot for a world-renowned surgeon, Mr. Bill Ham left the corporate aviation life and started Phoenix Residential Group with a single duplex and a dream. Over more than a dozen years, he grew the company to include more than 1,500 units spread over the state of Georgia, along with a thriving property management company. Trying to anticipate the market cycle, he spent the next few years divesting many of those assets at the peak of the market, making his investors substantial returns on their investment. During his entire career, he has been a coach and a mentor to, I would say, hundreds, not dozens, of young, soon-to-be industry titans, where even today, he continues to teach them the ups and downs of the multifamily space marketplace. Without further ado, Mr. Bill Ham, how are we doing?
Bill.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
So good to have you on.
So let's share the story. I mean, ultimately, why did you get into multifamily? What was the attraction?
The technical answer, I think, is monkey see, monkey do. I saw my friends doing real estate, and I thought, well, they're idiots. And, and they're making more money than I am, and I'm working, and they're not. So something's wrong with this. And, I just saw my friends doing it and thought, well, why not do it too? That's the short answer.
That's the start, though. But so how did you become successful in it? I mean, we all want to start somewhere.
That's a better question.
Okay.
Getting started and being successful are completely different things, aren't they? It took years of practice and working and failing and making mistakes and learning and starting over and making some more mistakes and doing it some more, and until you get it right. Yeah, it's practice.
So what were some of the big mistakes you made? I'm getting these good questions, right, Bill? They're getting better and better and better.
Think
right?
about that. Was the biggest mistakes made. Probably not getting started, not taking action. That's one of the biggest ones. I think that sort of analysis paralysis, thinking a little too much, things of that nature were some of the first biggest mistakes. One of the other largest mistakes I think I really made in business and real estate was being overconfident in my network. That's a biggie. If we're having a real estate business type conversation, then a lot of people I think are overconfident in the people that they know, and they feel like their net worth is their network. That's a common saying, and I agree to a degree that's true, but it's really the quality of the contacts, not the network.
Mm-hmm.
A stack of business cards a network does not make, and that was my problem. I was good at gathering business cards, terrible at following up, and so I had a false sense of a network.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went out to raise money, and people were kind of like, "Who are you again?" And so those were contacts that I was expecting to have a financial relationship with, but really the problem was I didn't spend any time with them when I didn't want something. And then when I wanted something, I showed up and was knocking at the door, and that's not a great way to build a network. Don't show up when you want something. And I had offers, I had investments, and that's great. But let's be clear, I wanted something. I was raising money. So that was probably one of my biggest mistakes was not being good enough at being normal, or being social, I guess you could say. I don't know.
So how did you become a coach? Because now my wife is always like tugging at me in the show, and she goes, "Don't make this all about real estate." And I promise it's not going to be all about real estate.
You know what? I was standing here. I'm like, this is going to be all real estate. I just know.
Well, that's why I was kind of trying not to go that way. I'm with you, Julie. I was like,
and I knew that the first question was real estate. I'm like, forget it. I lost.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to answer that in a more general.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I know this is specifically the real estate show.
So go ahead, baby.
Well, I want to know, like when you were saying you made mistakes, you didn't take enough action. At that time, were you educated? Because a lot of people out there, even in anything, and I don't mean just real estate, just in general, they get so educated, they go for more courses, more classes, more masters, and then they don't actually do anything. They don't actually take that action. So is that the part where you know, that really held you back? Was that if you just, you know,
yes. And you know, being with Gino and having been in the seminar business for a while, what I always call those are professional students that always feel like there's one more piece of information that's going to be this magic piece of information, and the person on stage is going to say this one magic thing and it's going to make it all happen for them. That's not true.
Yeah.
And yes, I see a lot of people that get slaved to becoming students, and they're hiding behind the education because they're afraid to take action. That wasn't exactly my scenario. I studied for about a year before I did my first deal. I did need to get somewhat comfortable, but mine was really fine. Well, my first problem was I was broke. So I mean, let's go there. I had no money and was trying to buy real estate, so I had no choice but to get creative. So making it not specifically about real estate, yeah, I think you need to study. I think you need to get comfortable with whatever it is you're trying to do. But at the same point in time, you only learn about things in school. You don't learn them until you go out on the street and actually. So if we're going to discuss real estate, you learn about real estate in class. You know, doctors learn about medicine. They don't really learn it until they practice it. So you've got to get out of the class at some point in time and just take action. You got to get out there and you know, stop studying and realize that you probably are definitely going to make some mistakes, and that's good.
And a question that I'm going to ask, and my husband knows I'm going to ask this, is about your wonderful, wonderful wife, because it's that support at home that I want to talk about, and I want to get there because that, you know, definitely helps if you're going to succeed or not.
You mean we can't talk about market cycle and about cap rates?
We'll talk about that too.
Okay. All right, good. Okay.
If it comes up.
Okay.
Yeah. I think spousal and partner relationship, and I'm not really married, but yeah, I think that your home life is extremely important. And this is something that I work with and talk to a lot of our students is, you know, you really can't fight both fronts. If you're going to go out and fight the world on the business front and then come home and fight the family on the home front, you're going to lose. So you really need to have the home life more or less settled. And nobody's perfect. And I'm not saying everybody needs perfect marriage, relationship, this sort of thing. But you need that other individual on board with what you're trying to do, or it may ultimately cause some problems. And Gino and I were talking about this the other day, and it's communication. Real incremental communication is important. What we're talking about, and what I've noticed, is that sometimes students will get into a program or whatever it is, and the other spouse is not extremely interested in the subject. Sort of like the two of you. I mean, Julia, you clearly know what Gino does, his business, all that, but you don't care about talking about cap rates. And, you know, and I'm sure you're not looking over his shoulder when he's analyzing a deal, you know, just super excited. You're normal, right? I mean, how many people out there have a husband or wife or spouse or partners? Not really that into it. They support them, they're happy for them. They don't really care about the details. Well, that's fine until the other spouse, the other partner, doesn't see success in the time frame that they believe they should. Okay, there's where the breakdown happens. So let's just say, you know, easy conversation. If I get up and go to these classes all the time and spend a lot of money, and I'm not successful as the partner thinks that I should be, there could be a breakdown in understanding there. And then, you know, basically what happens, and I have this call every now and then with students, they get up, they get downstairs, and the whole family's sitting at breakfast, and they're all staring at them. And, you know, and they're going, what? And they're going, well, you know, you've been traveling, you went to Florida, you went to that Jake and Gino thing, I'm sure you played some golf, you know, that's great. We're not rich. Where's that property? Where's that deal? You were supposed to have been closing, you know, what's going on? So what we got to make sure is that we don't allow our students, or if you are a student, to turn education into something that looks like it's something other than education. Like a vacation, like you just run off to play golf or whatever the case may be. So that's why I tell my students to really have a lot of incremental conversation with their wives, husbands, partners, whatever the case, especially the ones that are not super into the business model. Really bring them along, really show them what they're doing, show the partner that you're working and that you're doing deals, you're looking at deals, even if they're not interested, just keep them apprised, because if there's no communication, then what happens is expectations start to build up, and the expectations will never match reality. And then all of a sudden you might have some family trouble. Then that's where the partner gets upset with you spending money on your education. And that's a problem. And that was, you kind of mentioned my wife, and that's something that I had to go through with my wife. So the way I solved that problem earlier on was just got her to quit her job, and then I brought her into the company, gave her a job in my company, and made her run the company and control everything.
Wait a second.
See, he's a smart dude.
So that's how I solved
Bill,
that
we're
problem.
smart, Bill. The both of
Yeah, I
us.
just made the wife handle everything.
I feel like it's a big con. Hold on a second. What's going on? What am
You
I
know
doing
anything about
here?
business. Welcome to the show.
So, Bill, there's a lot of stuff to unpack there. I'm gonna mention a couple of things. The first thing is, when I started the journey, I let my wife know the pain that I had at the restaurant. I let my wife know that I felt like I was letting the family down. I didn't want my kids to see me come home from work and I hated my job. That's what I felt like at the restaurant. I wanted to be financially free. But what did that mean to her? It meant that I could make enough money to have her family come on vacation. I made enough money that if I wanted to take a day off, it also meant that I could help other people, get on a phone call and help somebody not get paid. So I think we have to be able to articulate that to our significant others. Why are we doing this? Reasons reap rewards. I had enough reasons, and I wanted her to feel my pain. But on the same token, I also promised her that I was going to work my butt off, that I was going to learn. I had lunchtime, I was doing work. Before the restaurant, work. At home, I was putting in the significant amount of hours. But one thing I didn't do was I didn't go on events. I should have done that, but I didn't. Ultimately, she pushed me to go to an event, and I should have done that sooner. The other thing, get them on the call. Get your significant other on calls. Let them come to events. Let them come to other events with you to partake of it. Because my wife got bought in. You can tell the story. She actually finally figured out what I was doing with Jake and Gino when I took her to an event when I was speaking at. And people are coming up to her saying, I changed their life. I love what he's doing. And she finally got bought into it. She's like, oh, the coaching thing really works. So if you want your spouse to be on board with you, let them become part of your life. Don't let it seem as if it's a hobby, because it's not a hobby. It's important. And I think one more thing, Bill, I like to say, and my wife disagrees with me on this, but I'm starting to believe it. Education is a change in behavior. You can read a book. You can do whatever you want. You know what? You can learn how to lose weight. I learned, but did you actually implement what you learned? If you didn't, did you get truly educated on it? If you know what a cap rate is, intuitively, great. Have you bought a deal? Not really. So I know my wife.
I don't disagree. I just like to question everything you say.
She's
all.
disagreeing.
I just love
now
it.
she's being nice
It's
on
a
here.
fun conversation sometimes.
But think about it, Bill. Like, people get educated all the time. Like you said, the professional person going to these seminars, they're getting educated, but is it true education where they're implementing what they are? And that's why coaching is so important, and having spouses is so important, because it's the accountability piece. We need that accountability piece from our spouse. I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to be I didn't want to be a loser and say, I wanted to give it my all. And that's why the accountability piece is there. And that's how a person should use a significant other. Give in to them, let them know what you want to do, but also say, I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah, but I have to say something though. Even if it didn't succeed, something. If it didn't succeed, I still would have been proud of you. And I want to, and I know there's a lot of wives just like me out there that they're seeing their husband or their partner struggle. They're not going to be disappointed. And it's that fear in you guys that I feel like you have to succeed in whatever you're doing to make us proud. Meanwhile, you could say, listen, I just want you to be proud of me. And that's all. Mm-hmm. And then it's done. I was proud of you before.
Were you really?
Yes.
Why didn't you tell me that? I would have worked a little less. Should have told me a little less.
But that's a good conversation is to have between those partners is what is success? And, is there a time frame that works? Because depending on what career you're going into, it could take 20 years. Who knows? I don't know. It could take a really long time. So to have that open conversation with each other on the timeline, because then, Bill, what happens if we rush? If you were talking about real estate? Yeah,
and that's what I was going to say to a point. There's actually a larger underlying issue here. In communication is great, and lack of communication is bad. It can actually cause more financial issue than one thinks. And this is what Gino and I were talking about the other day. It's what I call Get-There-Itis. It's actually a term that I took from the aviation industry. I make up a lot of the weird stuff I say, but I didn't make that one up. that was not me. Somebody told me that one. But basically what it was is we realized when we were flying airplanes that we would be cruising along and you would see red on the radar. Red is dead. Red means it's a storm. It means you've got bad weather. And so, invariably we would be flying along as the pilot and we would see bad weather ahead. And the passenger in the back seat would be someone important, a doctor, a lawyer, whoever. And we would say, well, we're not going to be able to fly through there. We're not going to make our destination. We're going to have to, detour or land or whatever the case. And the passenger would always say, yeah, but I got to get there.
Mhm.
I have an appointment. I have a destination. I need to be there at this certain time. Understood. But if you're dead, you don't get there. So, it's like, and they just wouldn't get it. And then sometimes those passengers would go out and become pilots and make the same decision. And that usually doesn't work. So the lesson that I took away from aviation and it now applied to business, and there are a lot of them, but this is one of them, is that Get-There-Itis. You've got to be careful when the red is clearly on the radar, when there is information right in front of you telling you what you're about to do is incorrect, but you have some other source of pressure making you override the obvious data right in front of you. Well, sort of to keep it, toward the call of what we're talking about now, a lack of communication can be that motivational. So same scenario, you come downstairs for breakfast and the whole family's sitting there angry at you because you've been traveling, spending money, and they're not rich, and they expected all these things. That's going to make you a little bit more desperate to go out and find a deal. And that's when it becomes my problem as your coach, because now you're underwriting those deals a little too aggressively. And that's what Gino was calling pencil whipping. And so this is something that, we don't have to make this about real estate necessarily, but think about that in life when you have some sort of extraneous social pressure that's causing you to make a decision. It's likely to give you that Get-There-Itis. And you're going to look past that radar and you're going to fly through a bad situation. So the point is there's two major aspects of Get-There-Itis. One of them is this lack of communication, and that's the big remedy, is to always be talking to the partner and communicating regularly, even if they're not super interested. I'm not saying you have to explain cap rates and how to analyze it. Just let them know what you're doing. Bring them along, as Gina said, bring them to the events, bring them on a call with me, let them meet me, whatever. But it helps stop that surprise pressure, which can then cause you to actually go out and get into business you shouldn't get into. And that's a good way to lose money.
So it's ironic that you say that, because I would tell my wife, hey, we just did a refi and roll. I got 300 grand. And she's like, oh, that's good. I'm like, did you hear what I said? I made more money in a refi than I'd made in the last 3 years. So I know everyone's struggle out there. Sometimes they just don't. Not that she didn't care, but I mean, it wasn't a big deal. I think she had the faith in me. She's like, yeah, I can agree with you. I really honestly would tell everybody to go out there and become crystal clear. Do some coaching, work on your goals. I know Bill doesn't like goal setting as much. I know we battle a lot with him back and forth.
He does like goals.
Listen,
we've had the conversation.
I'm going to tell you why I like goals. The reason why I like to set a goal now for everybody out there, you're not setting the goal. It's the person you need to become that once you hit the goal. That's what a goal is all about, because you're going to continue to stretch your goals, right? So don't focus on the goal itself. Focus on the person you need to become to get that goal. But I think, honestly, what you need to do is become clear with yourself, become honest with yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, and you have to over-communicate. One thing that COVID-19 has taught me, there's no such thing as over-communication. There's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of mistrust out there. Speak with your team members, speak with your family members, speak with everybody, over communicate and share and create a life plan with your significant other of what's going on, what you want to achieve in life. Because if you don't plan for life, what is the saying? Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. If you don't plan, you never heard that?
No.
Wow. New one for you, huh? If you don't plan in life, it's just going to happen to you. We can properly plan. That's why I do like goal setting. At least you can write down what you want to achieve. Then, obviously, you have to take action. That's where me and Bill totally agree on. You can write down, I want to get a deal, but what are you doing to get that deal?
I want to talk about that pressure you're talking about, Bill, because if you're getting pressure at home, you can go really bad, just like you said. It also can do good for you, because some of us need that pressure to a point, because if your partner's at home and saying, okay, dear, whatever you want, that's great. And here you are and you're like, oh, no pressure. Okay. Now I can wait. Now I can look for that better deal. Oh, this one's good, but let me find the next one. So in a sense, a little bit of pressure is healthy. And and that's important, again, to talk about with your spouse, because you need that accountability at home too, to say, come on, let's get up. Let's stop watching the TV. Let's go, educate a little more.
Watch the TV.
Yeah.
Bill, let me ask you, what, in your opinion, what have you seen when students start out, a person starts out as a newbie? What qualities do they take, or what do they do that really stands out and says they're going to be successful?
The most is sort of an abstract answer. The people that really that make me sit up and notice them are the ones who are willing to drop an unnecessary point of view without any egotistical attachment to it.
That's life right there, bro.
That's great.
That's
pretty much. I mean, right. When I sit down with somebody and go, hey, look, you're doing that wrong. You really don't need to be this way. They go, oh yeah, you're right. And they instantly change who they are because they were just presented with truth. And they see the truth and then they change who they are based on that. Those are the ones that are successful. It's the ones that you say, hey, look, maybe you should be like this. And they want to defend their point of view and the way they do it and the way they are and this kind of stuff tend not to make it. More of an example there would be like some of our students who have lived in tougher markets, say New York. And that's a tough market for buying multifamily in, as well as a lot of other things we won't go into. But I'm Southern. I'm going to pick on everybody pretty much outside of Georgia, right? It's always those Southerners. But anyway, so, the students that woke up one day and said, gosh, I'm in a city that is tough to build a multifamily career in, and went, okay, let's move. And they picked up and moved. Those are the kind of people that are willing to take massive, life-changing, personality, character-changing action when presented with a proper point of view. Those are the ones that truly make it. The other people that lean more towards creating excuses for why they're not doing it are the ones that tend not to make it. Now, let me be clear. I just made a pretty extreme comment. Everybody has a personal situation. Not everybody can just pick up and move because they want to and they have kids. In fact, I understand that. I mean, the closing table doesn't care. You get there, you don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can make up all the excuses you will like. And those are maybe even great excuses. They may be good excuses.
Well, that's what I talk about as far as becoming clear, because I sort of forced my family's hand to move down to Florida 3 years ago. I said to my wife, I said, I'm not happy where we are. I said, let's try. I said, if we don't like it, we can always move up. I'm moving down for multifamily also. So I had 6 kids at the time. I had a business. I had an identity up north. I knew people who knew where I was. It was a real big risk for us, but I knew my reasons. I had a big enough why. I think everybody out there, check what your why is. And if you can't move from New York, maybe you partner with somebody in a different market. There's other alternatives. There's so many different ways of skinning a cat. You have to peel back the onion and the layers of what's going on in your personal life.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming. We're all afraid to do something different, to do something outside the box that we're just used to for our whole lives.
But Jewel, I was more afraid of not taking that chance and living the rest of my life in regret than actually taking it. So I think there's the loss. Everyone out there has to look at the loss of fear versus the loss of gain. We are more likely not to do something because we're able to lose it than we are to win. So that fear of not taking that chance and not coming down here was greater than me staying up there. So I think everyone just think about that and apply that to your situation.
We kind of looked at it as an adventure, and we could have always gone back. And that's what, and that's the thing, yes, you don't have the same house, you sold it, whatever, but if it was really that important to you, you can get back to where you were. And it was just like a huge leap of faith for us. And I'm so thankful because it was the best thing that we did. Exactly. And we would never have thought about it before, and it was incredible.
It's like when I closed my very first deal, a duplex, it was cash flowing $300 and I'd saved up $10,000 and I quit my job. Again, I'm not suggesting people go out and make that kind of dramatic decision, but the same thing is like when you realize there's a different, better path, people who are willing to just immediately pivot and commit, regardless of social impact, regardless of those sorts of things, tend to be the people that make it a little more. So I would say,
listen to everyone around them saying that you're making a big mistake. That's
they look to themselves.
And that
make their own decisions.
And to have someone, if it's your partner or someone close to you giving you encouragement, that really does make a difference. And that's when it comes to like, who are you around? Are you around those people that are just telling you you're crazy, or are you going to find those people that are going to encourage you? Because that's important.
Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors.
Is your money working as hard as you are? At RAM Partners, we partner with hardworking investors who are seeking true passive income through multifamily real estate. Partnering with RAND means transparent communication with our webinars, monthly statements, and newsletters. For more information, visit rampartners.com to register for our investor portal and to set up a call with our team.
So I really held back on not talking about real estate because every time I talk to Bill, it's owner financing. It's just I love
I talk
talking
to Bill all the time. We never talk about it.
Well, I always talk about. I mean, we talk about guns. We talk about a lot of. We talk about. I know Bill's an avid gardener. I know a lot of stuff. So it's a real irony. I've never met someone. I guess I'm like you because I love gardening, but now all of a sudden
You
I
have
have
so
an
much
affinity
in
towards
common.
guns. Yeah, that's a
so
really,
funny. Yeah.
really strange thing. I never thought of that. So, can you just give us any other tips as far as communicating? With the spouses. When you have one, like you said, they're going through it. They really want it, but their spouse is not on board.
Yeah, they may not be until they see a little success, and you got to give them some space and some patience and understand that it's natural for them to be skeptical, especially if you're someone who may have a habit of running out and trying new things and starting and stopping. We all do it, right? So it should be clear. So give the other partner a little bit of leniency if they don't just immediately jump on the wagon and are your biggest cheerleader and this kind of stuff.
Yes.
They will come around when they see some success. But at the same time, success, especially in this business, can take a year, 18 months. So you need to communicate some reasonable time frames for what is Julia, what you point out, what is success and when should it come. So those are some of the things that we want to kind of speak to our spouses about. And let them know that it's going to be an outlay of capital up front, that you may write a large check to invest in your education. Those are all things. And two, really what I would say is if you're not great at communicating, find somebody that is and maybe work with them. Gino, you mentioned Julia, and I talked to her. Well, Julia, I'll tell you really call. Julia's been coaching me personally on writing and keeping me focused on some books and some other things that I'm writing on. So she's my accountability coach. So I would personally say, sign up for life coaching or speak to Julia if you have trouble with communicating with a partner. I think that'd be a great thing to do.
Thank you, Bill. It's important too. It's how to approach the partner. How are you approaching them? Because if you just lay them out with, facts, what you're doing, interesting things for them or not interesting, they're probably going to just glaze over and say whatever. But if you're saying, will you trust me? Will you give me some time? Are you willing to, let me do this education and be successful? Because I need you on board, because it's important for the other side, because I'm on the other side here. It's important for us to know that you want us on board, because sometimes just that alone is enough.
Phil, I'd like to recap this because there's been so much information here. I think the first thing is stay in your lane. I think don't get the shiny object syndrome, because then your spouse is going to be like, well, you did Bitcoin last month. You're doing single family homes this month. You're doing multifamily next month. Just pick a vehicle. I love multifamily. I haven't talked about it that much on the show. I'm going to say
keep talking about it.
Vehicle.
I feel like every few minutes.
Just pick a vehicle, okay? Next thing is we all go to college for 4 years. Don't expect to be successful in 6 months. Your significant other, tell them that. Doctors go to school for 8, 10, 11 years, and then they start working. So if you have to delay a year's worth of education and action, it's not that bad in the grand scheme of things. Look at it as a long-term investment. Don't look at it as an expense. Don't pencil whip a deal. Don't get-there-itis. It's important that you at least acknowledge that and say to your spouse, this is really important. This is our future. I do not want to make a stupid mistake. I don't want to do something or buy a deal just to show you that I'm taking action. I would say we have a student tracker sheet. Create a student tracker sheet for yourself on Excel and list out all the actions you're taking: coaching call, event, hour training, listening to podcasts, read books, and compile that and show that to your significant other and say, I'm really doing a lot of work and this is what I'm doing. It'll hold you accountable and it'll show them that you're putting the time and the effort into it. And I think the other thing is paint the financial picture to your significant other. Pictures work great. The picture for my wife was not money in the bank, because she didn't need that. She was financially free the day she married me. So basically,
so true.
It is so true, dude. Yeah. So to her, financially free doesn't mean anything. But when I say, hey, I can donate $1,000 to the Friars, I can have your mom come down here and I can pay for vacation for our friends, that makes sense. That locks in. That's a beautiful picture. And then she'll say, you know what, let's do this. Let's take this risk.
Yeah. And another thing I just want to add is if you're one of those couples out there that is trying to explain to the other one, ask them to be part of it, and ask them how do you want to be part of this? I want you to be part of it, because it's important for them too to decide where they want to be in this project of yours.
And that was hard. When I started with Jake and Gino in the beginning, my wife had no idea what I was doing, and she always wanted to get in on it, but I was too dumb to realize how to get her in on the education. And we actually started the podcast because of that, because I wanted her to be really intimately part of my life, and I wanted to do the podcast. Now, has it been easy?
I just like you.
Who does
I
the
like
show
hanging out
notes?
with you, you know?
It can be challenging with the spouse. It can be, but it's so worth it working with someone else and sharing your dreams with others. So I just challenge everybody out there, just communicate better. Bill, any final words?
No, I think that's it. Yes, just keep everybody apprised of what you're doing. That's the big thing. It's just small incremental communication. I think all along the way is better than big communication.
Yeah. Like a big talk.
Yeah, right.
Overwhelming.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Consistency.
Well, I just think,
consistency.
just keeping each other up to date on what's going on. And also there's the other side, is what the other person is doing. What are their interests? And also show them that you're interested, you're supporting them. And notice I'm looking at Gino. I don't know.
Bill, where can the listeners get a hold of you, Bill?
You guys can come find us at BroadwellPropertyGroup.com. That's the company that I work for. I'm by the way, COO of Broadwell Property Group. And you can find me at Bill@BroadwellPropertyGroup.com. Send me an email if you got any questions or comments. Well, you can keep the comments, but if you have any questions or anything else, you're welcome to send the comments, but if you have questions, you can ask.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And Bill,
I love helping people anytime.
Oh, you're so awesome. I just want to tell you that. And I'm excited to be working with you on your projects.
Yeah, I know.
When they are complete, we will have you on again and talk about that.
I'm gonna have to put a special thank you in all my books just for you.
No.
For Julia.
No.
Wow. So when you're done, she didn't say if you're, she said when you're done, we'll have you back on. So that's the accountability piece. She's throwing it out right there.
There you go.
You see what I'm saying? I caught that. She does
when we're done with what, Julia? So you got about 3 different books.
I know. We're going to do all of it. All of it.
Ultra fast.
We just want to thank everyone out there for being, part of the Jake and Gino community and spending part of the day with us. And once again, we wouldn't be here without having Bill as one of our coaches. I mean, he's been a fantastic job. He's been a great mentor.
Wouldn't be here without you.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. So, we love you, Bill, and
Thanks.
see you soon.
Take care. See you.
Bye.
Hey, Gino, the 2 most common questions I've been asked are, how do I get into real estate and do my first deal? The other question, how do I scale my real estate portfolio? Well, gang, we have great news for you. Gino, tell them about it.
We can help you answer both of those questions. At jakeandgino.com, we offer a variety of micro courses to help you along your real estate journey. Our proprietary 3-step framework has helped hundreds of real estate entrepreneurs successfully get started in real estate with no experience, and it has also helped experienced real estate entrepreneurs take it to the next level.
If you want more information, visit www.jakeandgino.com/courses. That's JAKEANDGINO.com/courses, and use coupon code PODCAST for 20% off your purchase on taking the next step in your multifamily journey.